This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Right, so last night I was on the Fractal forum just quickly browsing whilst I was doing something else, and I saw that there's a new firmware out for the FM9. Now, if you're interested in like the Modular Wars kind of space, then you would have known that probably when the Fender Tonemaster Pro came out, one of its kind of key selling points was that it had this gapless preset switching thing going on, which is somewhat unique-ish. Not really, because the Boss stuff can do it, Headrush can do it, Kemper between rigs is pretty much seamless. But in any case, some of the other big players, like for instance Fractal, Helix, although Helix can do it if you turn down the processing, and Quad Cortex, basically what happens when you switch between presets is you get an audio drop as basically the DSP kind of breaks apart the signal chain, then rebuilds the next one. So you switch from one preset to the other, and there's, necessary amount of time to recreate the signal chain and all that sort of stuff. It's generally quite a small gap anyway, but I think it is noticeable in some cases, and for that reason, we actually kind of, in the modeling world, got around to doing things like, using snapshot scenes and that sort of stuff to kind of, make it so that were seamless changes. And I, of course, in the Helix world, use snapshots. In Fractal, use scenes. However, it's something that happened quite quickly after the Tonemaster Cliff from Fractal, and I think MB is the guy who did the FM9 firmware, basically found a way that they could close this gap. So essentially now the Fractal gear is on par with the Tonemaster Pro gear for that particular feature, and in pretty much every other area except for maybe having a touchscreen and except for maybe ease of use and that sort of thing, the Fractal then continues to stay way ahead of the game. And this was a kind of thought that I then had, because you see people and people ask me and stuff like that, like what piece of gear would you buy? Like, and because I've done videos with Quad Cortex, with Tone Master Pro, with Helix and all that sort of stuff, people do kind of ask you for your opinion, and that's all mine is. I don't really want you to go out and buy something because of what I said. But what I would point out as a thing where I sort of worry for the consumer who ends up paying for these expensive pieces of gear, that we're seeing a new trend. So for instance, the Quad Cortex and the Tone Master Pro have been sold basically on a bright future rather than what it can do right now in a lot of cases. And we're still waiting now. I think, is it 2019 NAMM was when the Quad Cortex was announced, and one of the key selling points then was that you'd be able to play the plugins, which is the whole reason that we knew about Quad Cortex, the whole reason that we knew about Neural DSP was because of the success of their plugins. And their line was, if you're serious about software, you should make hardware. And okay, so the Quad Cortex actually now I think is pretty good, but it's still not able to load those plugins. Maybe that's going to change this week at NAMM. Hopefully for users, I hope that would be the case. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where at least a portion of their user base, and again, for me, that was the whole reason it was interesting to me, the Quad Cortex, is because, well, I've seen the plugins, I quite like what they do there. It would be a first if we could see them doing this in the hardware space as well, but it hasn't happened yet. Likewise with the Fender Tone Master Pro, there was a lot of kind of fuss, which seems to have died down quite a bit. And then, their reps actually admitted a few things and said actually, we got impedance curves built into the IR block. And this is perhaps why it wasn't coming off sounding amazing when you did comparisons with other units, or, if you look at Leon Todd's videos on that. And for instance, I had the main guy from Fender who does the thing in my emails, saying we are committed to this for the long term, it's going to get better and that sort of stuff. And it's a bit like, well, I paid £1,500 now, and there are other things on the market that can already do a lot of this stuff or way more. And so I think, what am I talking about? I guess it's the idea, where the consumer is ending up buying a product based on promises for what might come in the future. I think for me it's not an amazing trend. I think partly why it's come along is because people like Fractal and Line 6 do these free updates, and then I guess the user base in general has expected that to continue with other modelers that come into the space. And for that reason, you bring out a product with the expected life cycle and stuff, but it takes longer sometimes than planned to make these updates. And anyway, so I think Fractal and Line 6 are the most frequent with these updates and stuff like that. Fractal even more frequent, and like the speed that they managed to turn around this gapless preset switching, seemingly, unless it was being worked on in the background, is very quick, because there is that direct route to the top. Like the main guy is the main coder, right? So Cliff is driving that, and I think for that reason, Fractal stuff is gonna stay at the top of the game. And in terms of buying a unit, again, I said this many times before, really, I think consumers would be best off buying a piece of gear for what it does right now, rather than future promises, because as we've seen over the last sort of 4 years, those things might not come. Anything could happen. And what remains true to this day is that the Fractal unit still has way more amp models than any of the other units combined, way more effects, all of that sort of stuff. Yes, I work for G66, but I'm a huge fan of the Line 6 stuff, and that's what I use every single day. But at the same time, kind of the facts remain the facts. If you can work with the editor, the Fractal stuff gives you the most control over the most options. Yes, there will be some amount of option paralysis potentially. Yes, there will be potentially, you know, a little bit of a learning curve getting into these things. Is it the most easy unit to dial in live? Probably not. However, I think pound for pound, you get a lot of wow moments with this, the Fractal stuff. For me, you know, like just plugging into that matchless preset that I was using in the start. Yeah, I'm used to playing with modelers. I still get the most kind of satisfaction and kind of, oh, that is something's going on here with the Fractal stuff. You don't need to believe that if you don't want to. That's kind of fine. But I'd tell you if that wasn't the case, probably. And yeah, with the Fender Tonemaster Pro, that was the thing that was totally missing for me, was that I played it for hours and never really had a moment where I went, wow. So yeah, that for me is a bit of a game-changing day for the Fractal FM9 users, and I think indicates that hopefully its little brother, the FM3, is going to get the same gapless treatment, in which case that then becomes, I think, an incredibly useful unit for folks, because yeah, this whole seamless thing can change the way that you build presets and think about stuff. But yeah, that's the worry for me, is that what if each new product that comes out is now being sold on a future capability rather than what you can do right now, and are people going to necessarily get kind of bought into a thing which may not be ideal? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in another video soon. That preset was Matchless Beauty. If you want to grab that from the Gumroad folder, that's where I keep the Fractal presets now. Cheers. This is pretty cool. So if we go into setup here, I believe we've now got global settings. Where's it going to be? Gapless, scene, channel scene, preset. So we'll turn it all, spillover, delay reverb, delay and reverb, all. So now, basically we have a situation where hopefully you'll be able to see, I think we have to save each preset that we want to switch between. Viewer, we want this one. Store, save, yes. Now I think, nice. Okay, and then the next preset I need to just save, enter, and you'll be able to hear we've now got pretty incredible. So that's again one of the only things really that the Fender Tonemaster Pro could do that Fractal kind of hadn't at the time got figured out, and now yeah, essentially this is going to in practice feel just as powerful as the Tonemaster Pro, if not considerably more, as well as having all of the great choice that you get with Fractal. I think that's really good. Let's dig into this a bit more.